begins to walk, the love increases. When he says his first words, the love increases. The first time he says Abba, Amma, the love increases. Every day, the love is increasing. And then, one day, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to take away this child, say at the age of 10, now we would really feel the pain and we would really shed tears. Why? Because of our love for this child which has reached the peak, which has become incomparable. Because of our sleepless nights, because of your sacrifices, because of the good days that have passed with this child. Likewise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just doesn't want the sacrifice. He wants the ultimate sacrifice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself paves the way for this, as the hadith of Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu states. The hadith of Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu states that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wa salam through a small test before he wants the ultimate test. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wa salam to take this son of his with his mother. And this son which he has given him at the age of 86, and through so much difficulty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants him to leave this son with his mother in Makkah al-Mukarramah. Makkah al-Mukarramah at the time, my brothers, was no way like Makkah is today, with the beautiful roads and tall lofty buildings and beautiful hotels and palm trees. Makkah in them days was nothing like it as it is today. There was no such thing as water in Makkah. There was no such thing as trees. There was no such thing as buildings. Nothing. There was not even a soul living there. It was a desert. And all you would see was black mountains. You would see burning sun, and you would see scorching heat, and that's about it. Only those that have experienced something like this will be able to truly comprehend what I'm referring to and what I'm saying. By the grace of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have had some experience with regards to these places. Places where there is nothing whatsoever other than black mountains, scorching heat and burning sun. And I swear by the Almighty Allah, it is in places like this where you really remember Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to mind 24/7. Allah comes to mind 24/7 in these places. And it is in this place that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wa salam to leave our mother and to leave this child, Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam, at the place where the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. He leaves this child with his mother at the place where the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is today, with only a bag full of dates and a water bag. This is the only thing that he leaves with him, and then he begins to return. He begins to return, and our mother follows saying, يا إبراهيم أين تذهب؟ يا إبراهيم أين تذهب وتتركنا بهذا الوادي الذي ليس به أنيس ولا شيء؟ Oh Ibrahim, where are you going? You are going, you are returning, and you are going to leave us in this valley where there is not a single thing, not even a human inside. And Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wa salam does not reply. And he repeats yet again the same word, يا إبراهيم أين تذهب وتتركنا بهذا الوادي الذي ليس به أنيس ولا شيء؟ Oh Ibrahim, you are going to leave us here, yet you know there is not a single soul here, there is nothing here, there is no water here, there are no trees here, there is nothing here whatsoever, and you are going to leave us in this remote place. And yet again Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wa salam does not reply. She keeps on asking, but Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wa salam does not reply. His heart doesn't soften, as this is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Finally, seeing that he's not going to reply, she asks, oh Ibrahim, just tell me one thing. Oh Ibrahim, just tell me one thing. Allahu amraka bihadha? Is it Allah, is it your Lord that has ordered you to do this? It is only then that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam replies, and he replies in the affirmative, Na'am. Yes, it is my Lord that has ordered me to do this. Allahu Akbar, look at their level of Iman. He is leaving her in a place where there is not a single thing. And when is this the answer that he gives her, she replies, if this is the case, إِذَنْ لَا يُضَيِّئُنَا. If this is the case that your Lord has ordered you to leave us here, then your Lord will never let us go to waste. Never can we comprehend this level of Iman. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wa salam returns, And where he cannot see them, he faces the holy Kaaba. He prays, رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ إِنَّ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ رَبَّنَا لِيَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ فَاجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ وَارْزُقْهُم مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ. Oh my Allah, I have made some of my offspring to dwell in a valley without cultivation by the sacred house. Oh Allah, I have done this in order that they may establish regular prayer. Oh Allah, fill the hearts of some among men towards them and feed them with food so that they may give thanks. Now our mother returns and she eats from this bag and she drinks from this water. It is only a small bag and very less water. How long is it going to last for? She will drink from this bag, drink from this water, and then in turn feed the child. But after a few days there are no dates and there is no water, and in turn there is no milk to feed the child. She is thirsty. The child is thirsty. They are suffering from starvation. The child is in pain. The child is suffering. How can this mother tolerate the child in pain? She distanced herself from the child as to not to see the child. The child is turning from one place to another. The child is dying for water. Worried and out of desperation, our mother climbs Mount Safa to see if she can see someone. Maybe she can see someone. Maybe he will be able to help her. Maybe she will be able to see some water in the distance. She climbs Mount Safa, but she cannot see a single soul. She cannot see water. Concerned about the well-being about the child, of the well-being of the child, of the safety of the child, she descends from the mountain and runs in the valley to see the child. The child is still alive. The child is crying. The child is desperate in need of water. Out of desperation, now she climbs the other mountain which is nearby, Mount Marwa, yet again for the same reason. Maybe she will be able to find somebody there. Maybe she will be able to see water from distance. But yet again, there is not a single soul in sight. She can see no one. She can see no water. And she does this 7 times. One mountain to the second mountain, yet again to the first, yet again to the second. And she keeps on doing this. And our Prophet, peace be upon him, in the hadith has said, هذا سعي الناس بينهما. This is the sa'i people make between Safa and Marwa, and it is because of this that they make this sa'i between Safa and Marwa, because our mother had done this 7 times. Finally, when she is on Marwa, she can hear a voice in her ears. It is Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam. Jibreel appears before her, and with the back of his foot, he hits the place where the well of Zamzam is today, and water begins to spring out. Our mother drinks from this water, and in turn, our mother feeds Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. In turn, feeds Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam. Now the child is growing as every day passes. And the love for this child is increasing by the second. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will shrink the earth for Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And thus Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was able to cover long distances in a very short time. He would come, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam would come and visit his family, expressing this love and showing this love he has for her and he has for his son Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. And the child is growing day by day, and Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam is seeing this. And now when the child has reached the age, as the Quran says, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ الصَّيْرِ, now when the child has reached the age in which he is no longer in need, he can look after himself. And this love has reached its peak. According to Sayyidina Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, if my memory serves me right, the age of the child at the time was only 13. 13, now after all Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam has gone through with regards to this child, all the difficulties that he's made, difficulty he has gone through, all the sacrifices that he's made, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the ultimate sacrifice. Now is the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants him to part from this son, and he sees in a dream that he is sacrificing his child, that he is slaughtering in a child. And the dream of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam are revelation, and he is ordered to slaughter this child. Without any doubt in his mind, without hesitating for 1 second, without even pondering over this for 1 second, without even doubting in his mind as to what is being asked of him, when this command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes, he immediately approaches his son Ismail alayhi salam, and he relates, Ya bunayya, inni ara fil manami anni azbahuka fanzur madha tara. Oh my son, I have seen in a dream that I am offering you in sacrifice. Tell me what you have to say about this. Tell me what is your opinion. Tell me what is your view. The child, according to Sayyidina Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, is only 13 years of age. 13 years of age, my brothers and sisters, bear this in mind. And this 13-year-old child is no ordinary child. He's not like my son. He is not like your son. He is the son of a Nabi. He is the son of one of the great Nabis. He is the son of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, the friend of Allah. He is son of a prophet. And they say like father, like son. Knowing that this means he will have to part from this world. He will have to part from his father. He will have to part from his mother, whom he loves dearly, without any fear whatsoever, without any hesitation whatsoever, knowing that this was a trial of the will of a father and a son. This child replies, Ya Aba tif'al ma tu'mar, satajiduni insha'Allah min as-sabirin. O Abba Jan, do as you have been ordered. Do as Allah has ordered you. Insha'Allah, you will find me from amongst those that are steadfast. You will find me from amongst the sabirin. Now the day he is taking Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam to sacrifice in the jungles of Mina, as is one of the opinions that has been expressed, the ulama say it right, that the shaitan wanted to take an advantage of this situation. He wanted to take advantage of this situation, but he approaches our mother and he says to her, did you know where Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam has taken your son? To verify what she replies, he informs her no. He informs her of the reality, but she refuses to accept. He informs her, he claims that Allah has ordered him to sacrifice. Allah has ordered him to do this. Allahu Akbar, the level of iman. Yet again she replies, إِن كَانَ رَبُّهُ أَمَرَهُ بِذَلِكَ فَقَدْ أَحْسَنَ أَن يُطِيعَ رَبَّهُ. If Allah has ordered him to do this, then that is the best thing that he can do. Seeing that he's failed, he approaches the child, playing the same trick, and then he approaches the father. But in all three instances, he fails, and the words that are flowing from the lips of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam are obedience to the Creator, sabr wa ta'ah. Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma relates, as the time of sacrifice draws near, the child says to the father, Ya abati, ustud ribati la'alla tasrib. Wa Abba Jan, tie me with something, tie me with a belt, so I'm unable to move when you sacrifice and when you place that knife on my throat. Ya abati, ukfuf alayya, Ya abati, ukfuf thiyabaka an dami, la'alla yusibaka thawbak, fatarahu ummi fatahzan. Wa Abba Jan, I want you to keep your clothes away from my blood. If your clothes become covered with my blood, this will sadden my mother when my mother sees this. O Abba Jan, at the same time I request, أطلع مرة سكين على حلقي ليكون أهون للموت. O Allah, O Abba Jan, I want you to make haste with this sacrifice so that this is easy on me. And at the same time, I want you to convey my last lambs to my mother. And I want you to mention وَالْفُرْهَا ثَوَابَ الصَّابِرِينَ. And I want you to mention the reward of those that be patient and how much thawab she is going to get for this. When Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam hears these words of his child, and the child begins to cry, he says to him, نِعْمَ الْأَوْنِ أَنْتَ يَا بُنَيَّ عَلَى أَمْرِي. O my son, how helpful you are with regards to this. My brothers, when the child is crying, the angels in the heaven cannot tolerate this. The angels begin to cry. The angels begin to cry. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the angels, Ya malaikati, unzuru ila abdi istahukka al-khulla am la. Oh my angels, tell me now is my servant worthy that I befriend him? Is he worthy of my friendship now? And the angels reply, Ilahana, law kunna makanahu lam nasbir. Oh Allah, if we were in his place, we would never be able to make this sabr. Oh Allah, if we were in his place, we would never be able to make the sabr. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam fulfills the command of Allah. Then Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, fulfills the command of Allah, and he passes the knife across his throat. But the knife does no damage, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed some copper there. The child calls out, Ya abati, اقلبني على وجهي فلعلك تستحي وتدرك رفقة فضحول بينك وبين أمر الله. O Abba Jan, turn me the other way. Maybe your heart has softened and thus you are unable to carry out the command of Allah. When the heavens and the earth hear what this child is saying, they are taken back by the patience of this child, and Allah calls out, Ya Ibrahim, قد صدقت رؤيا إن كذلك نجزي المحسنين. O Ibrahim, this is enough. You have fulfilled the dream. O Ibrahim, you have fulfilled the dream. O Ibrahim, you have fulfilled the dream. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam turns around and he sees a lamb from Jannah, and he slaughters this lamb in its place. The child turns with tie behind his back. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam comes and he unties this child. He unties Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. When Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam sees this, he asks his child, Man halla kitafak? Or tell me who has untied you? And Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam replies to Abba Jan, Alladhi ja'aka bil kabsh. The very person who brought the lamb is the very person that has untied me. As I mentioned before, we will never be able to comprehend the true nature of this sacrifice. We will never be able to comprehend the true nature of this sacrifice. Everything about Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was phenomenal. His level of iman was phenomenal. His tawakkul was phenomenal. Look at the way they threw him inside the fire. Look at his belief then. Look how much belief he had in the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they threw him inside the fire, that Allah will come to his rescue and Allah will save him. I'm sure that you are aware that his father and the people of his time would worship idols. And he would invite them and he would say to them, هل يسمعونكم يستدعون أو ينفعونكم أو يضرون قالوا بل وجدنا آباءنا كذلك يفعلون قال أفرأيتم ما كنتم تعبدون أنتم وآباؤكم الأقدمون فإنهم عدو لي إلا رب العالمين الذي خلقني فهو يهدين والذي هو يطعمني ويسقين وإذا مرضت فهو يشفين والذي يميتني ثم يحيين. He would say أفتعبدون من دون الله ما لا ينفعكم شيئا ولا يضركم أفل لكم ولما تعبدون من دون الله أفلا تعقلون. He would invite them day and night, but they would not listen to his message and they would not act upon what he said. So Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ took care of his problem himself by breaking all the idols except the big one. Now when the people realized that it was Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ who broke the idols, angrily they remarked, حَرِّكُوهُ وَانْصُرُوا آلِهَتَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ فَاعِلِينَ. They said, take revenge by burning him alive. Now open the books of Tafsir and you will find that it is written that they began to gather wood for this great fire from wherever they could. And everybody participated in gathering this wood. The small, the big, the old, the weak, the male, the female, to the extent that it is related. In the books of Tafsir, that if a woman fell ill, she would vow that if she got better, she would definitely gather wood for this great fire. And she would definitely gather wood for this great fire. And they, as is written in the books of Tafsir, they gathered wood for 40 days. They gathered wood for this fire. Just imagine how much wood they must have gathered in these 40 days. And then a huge furnace was set in which fire was kept blazing for days. Now this fire is generating so much heat that everything around it is also burning. The nearby things are also burning. How did they put Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ inside the fire? Nobody can even get near to the fire. A Qurdi at the time called Hizam came up with the idea of a gopal. And he was the first one ever to make a gopal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished him. The earth opened and took him inside. They placed the gopal on a mountain. And then they tied Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ and they began to drag him. And when they tied him and they were dragging him, the words that were flowing on his lips were La ilaha illa anta subhanak, lakal hamdu wa lakal mulk, la sharika lak. Oh Allah, there is no God worthy of worship but thee. All praise are for you. The kingdom is for you. Oh Allah, you have no partner. They placed Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ inside the gopal. And then they throw Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ inside the fire. Such was his iman that it is related. When they threw Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ inside the fire, the words that were flowing from his lips were, Allahumma innaka fis sama'i wahid, wa ana fil ardi wahid a'budu. Oh Allah, you are the only one in the heavens. Oh Allah, and I am the only one on the earth that worships you. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. As he is in the air, Sayyidina Jibreel ﷺ appears before him. Look at the level of iman. Sayyidina Ibrahim ﷺ is worried and concerned and asks, Oh Ibrahim, tell me, alaka hajatun, is there any necessity? Do you have a need? He replies, Oh Jibreel, amma ilayka falah, with regards to yourself, I have no need. I do not have a necessity. Sayyidina Jibreel ﷺ calls out, Oh Ibrahim, Salman ilayhi al-wahid, Salman ilayhi al-wahid. Why do you ask the Almighty Allah, the one that fills all necessities, the one that fills all needs? Yet again he replies, Oh Jibreel, ilmuhu bihali, yughni an su'ali. Oh Ibrahim, oh Jibreel, when he knows of my situation, when he knows what I'm going through, when he can see me, then what is the need of asking? Why should I ask him? What is the need to ask? This was his level of iman. He's been thrown inside the fire, yet he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save him. The angel of rain cannot tolerate this. And the angel of rain remarks, Ya Rabbi, khaliluka yulka fin nar. Oh Allah, your friend Ibrahim is being thrown inside the fire. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to the angel of rain, can it big for oh angel, if he asks you for help, then help him, and if he doesn't ask you for help, then do not help him, then leave him. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would help him. He knew this was his iman, and thus when he's thrown inside the fire, there the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to the fire, Ya nar, kuni bardu wa salaman ala Ibrahim. O fire, become cool, and a means of safety for Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And the fire becomes cool and the means of safety for Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So much so that Imam Suddi relates that when Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam reached the fire, when he reached the fire, inside the fire, the angels caught him. Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam brought a shirt from Jannah and a tanfuza, something to sit on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took out a spring of sweet water for him, and the place became a garden with beautiful flowers, with yasmin, rayahin and so forth. And Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam sat with him, talking with him. It is related, Minhal ibn Amr relates, أقام إبراهيم في النار 40 يوما, that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam remained in the fire for 40 days. Ibn Asakir further relates on the authority of Ikramah that when Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was inside the fire, his mother called out, Ya bunayya, inni urid an aji'a ilayk, fad'u Allah an yunjiyani min harri an-nari hawlak. His mother called out, Oh my son, I want to come to you. Pray to the Almighty Allah, pray to your Lord that the fire doesn't burn me. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam prays. She enters the fire, she embraces her son, she kisses her son, and then she leaves the fire without a single mark on her body. And Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu himself, after 40 days, leaves the fire without a single mark on his body. This was his level of iman. It cannot be comprehended. It was remarkable. Everything about him was remarkable. Now prior to this, or after the fire and both opinions have been expressed, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was tested yet again. He had to challenge the king. This king was no ordinary king. He was a tyrant ruler who, according to some traditions, ruled for 400 years. And he's one of the 4 kings that have ruled the whole world. There have only been 4 kings that have ruled the whole world. 2 Muslim and 2 non-Muslim, 2 non-believers. The Muslims being, as Imam Mujahid says, Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam ruled the whole world, and Dhul Qarnayn ruled the whole world. And the non-believers being Bukhti Nasr, and then this king Nimrod. Now he was such a tyrant that when he was informed by the Kahana, the soothsayers of his time, that a child will be born on whose hands your kingdom will come to an end, he stopped the men from sleeping with their wives. And he ordered that every newborn child would be killed. It so happened that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was born at the time when he passed this order, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. This is the very same ruler regarding which Zayd ibn Aslam relates, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent an angel to him to invite him to Iman. But he refused. He was invited several times, but every time he was invited, he kept on refusing. Finally the fool challenged by saying, Ijma' jumu'uk wa ajma' jumu'i. Bring your army and I will bring mine, and we will have a war. Full of pride, he gathered all his armies. Now just imagine how big his army was. He ruled the whole world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent some flies, or some locusts, and they destroyed this army of his by eating their flesh and drinking their blood. It is narrated that one entered his nose. On a daily basis he would hit his head with a hammer. And later he died as a result of this fly. Now this was the zalim king that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam had to deal with. He had claimed divinity. He had claimed godhood. And people would treat him as their Lord and their God. Now this king, fearing that Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam may succeed in stirring people up against him, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was brought before him. And he asked Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, Man Rabbuk? O Ibrahim, tell me who is your Lord? And Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam replied, Alam tara ila alladhi haja Ibrahim fi rabbihi an ataahu al-mulk. أن آتاه الله الملك إذ قال إبراهيم ربي الذي يحيي ويميت. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam replied, as the Quran says, that my Lord is the one who gives life and my Lord is the one who gives death. Now the king replied, أنا أحيي وأميت. I too give life and I too give death. So the fool ordered the executioner to behead an innocent man. The order was carried out immediately. And then he ordered that a prisoner under sentence be released. A prisoner under the sentence of death be set free. This was also done. So the fool thought that he's given life and at the same time he's killed somebody. So the fool said, see, I have the power to give life and death. Now Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, realizing that this king was more stupid than he thought, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam went to the kill and said, if that is the case, فإن الله يأتي بالشمس من المشرق فأتي بها من المغرب. My Allah causes the sun to rise from the east. You cause it to rise from the west. فبهت الذي كفر والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. And this came to an end as the king had no answer. He became speechless and his lips were sealed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam not once, not twice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam many times. The Quran says, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُمْ. Many a time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And every time he tested Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam passed the test with flying colors. And as a result of this, قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was made an imam. And as a result of this, he earned the friendship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as a result of this, وإذ يرفع إبراهيم القواعد من البيت وإسماعيل ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم ربنا واجعلنا مسلمين لك ومن ذريتنا أمة مسلمة لك وأرنا مناسكنا وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam received the honor of making the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or making the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Makkah al-Mukarramah. My brothers and sisters, I finished as I started by saying, these days are all about Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, and one can continue mentioning the different incidents that took place in these days. But what has been said, I believe, is enough. All I do is pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq to remember Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam on these days, and to follow Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam in every respect, in his love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his sacrifices, in his obedience to Allah. Today, my brothers and sisters, is the day of Arafat, and I conclude by saying that the Arafat, the word Arafat is derived from the word Arafah, and the word Arafah means to recognize, it means to know, it means to familiarize oneself with. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had said, Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salatu wa salam showed Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salatu wa salam how to perform the tawaf. He then took them to Mina and told them where they should offer their praise. And then Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salatu wa salam took them to Arafat, and he taught them everything that what they should do in Hajj. When he taught them everything, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam began to say, Araf, oh Allah, I know now. Oh Allah, I have familiarized myself, and now I know. And it is because of this, Arafat is called Arafat, as is one of the affiliates. I conclude by saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me the tawfiq to act upon what I've said. Allah give me the tawfiq to remember Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah give me the tawfiq to follow Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam in every aspect of life. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah give you the tawfiq to remember this great Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to follow this Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every respect. Wa akhiru dawana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.